Jerit Roser for Times-Picayune and NOLA.com in Baton Rouge, where through one round of the softball playoffs this year, several of the teams you would expect to advance from the Baton Rouge area have indeed done so, headlined by that 5A group that had such a strong seeding to start the playoffs in the first place. Seven of the nine 5A teams from the area all advanced. We knew no more than eight could advance because of the fact that District 4 or 5A rivals, Zachary and Central, would open the playoffs against one another. Zachary ends up beating Central at home 4-1. That's one of several games from this first round that you can find full game stories and video interviews from on the website highschoolsports.nola.com. Again, Zachary with the 4-1 win to advance to face another 4-5A rival, the third seeded Live Oak Eagles, who get to this point with a 14-0 defeat of 30 seed Thibodaux. That's a game I think the Live Oak girls are really excited to see. They'll play that at Saturday at 1 o'clock. Zachary handed Live Oak, the district champions, Live Oak, their only loss in district play this year. And then the second time around, the game had to be postponed and eventually not played because of all the weather that we went through this year. That quadrant of the bracket with all those 4-5A teams, including Walker, which advances with a 4-3 escape of North Shore, the 11th seeded Wildcats, get the win in advance. We knew there was going to be a chance for potentially two second-round Baton Rouge versus Baton Rouge matchups. Obviously, you get Live Oak and Zachary. Walker will see East Ascension from District 5, 5A. The Spartans advance from their 6th seed with a 7-0 defeat of Acadiana. Also on the bottom half of the bracket, 7th seeded Dutchtown advances with a 3-0 defeat of 26th seeded Ruston. They'll face and host on Saturday Hahnville, the 10th seeded Hahnville Tigers. Handed another Baton Rouge team, St. Joseph's, a loss in the first round. Another close game, a 3-2 win for Hahnville. Again, they will now travel to Dutchtown. The top half of that 5A bracket, top-seeded Sanoma with an 11-0 win against Chalmette advances and will now face Barb on Friday as scheduled. Again, weather could get interesting the second half of this week. Denham Springs in another one of those games, like the Zachary and Central game, that you can find a full game story and some videos on. Denham Springs gets a 6-3 defeat of Chappelle on Monday. They'll advance to face the 9th-seeded Pineville team that ousted Sanoma last year from the quarterfinals. You look at the 1A group as well. You knew 1A was going to have a strong group, as has been the case in recent years in Baton Rouge. Most of those teams, the top-seeded teams that hosted first-round games, did indeed advance, several of which came in sort of emphatic fashion. Top-seeded Catholic Point Capee gets by Haynesville 17-2. Ascension Catholic with a 15-0 defeat of Ecole Classique. And False River 10-3 advances past Lafayette Christian. St. John, that was kind of the thriller of the 1A group. They get the 8-6 defeat of LaSalle, another game that you can find a lot more info on highschoolsports.nola.com. Christian Life and White Castle both fall. Sticking with some of the smaller schools, Family Christian fell in its second-round matchup, actually, and so falls short in Class C action of the state tournament. Maurepas, the 4th seed in Class B, a little bit further east, they get a win to start the playoffs, and they will now host a second-round game with an opportunity to get to the state tournament. Jumping back up to 4A and 3A. 4A, one of the higher seeds in the Baton Rouge area that did lose was 11th seeded Plaquemine. Bastrop, the 22 seed, travels down from northeast Louisiana, gets a 3-0 victory, ending not only a good season for the Green Devils, but a nice run by several Green Devils seniors who will advance and go play some college softball now, leaving the only Baton Rouge area team alive in the 4A bracket. 16th seeded Lutcher gets an 8-3 defeat of Cecilia and will now travel to top-seeded North DeSoto. In 2A, Springfield gets a 16-6 victory against North Lake Christian. Doyle gets an 8-2 defeat of Westminster Christian, while Episcopal, St. James, and French Settlement all fall. We will see a lot of these second-round games Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The vast majority of those will be Friday, with some on Thursday, some on Saturday. And Doyle will start us off hosting Manny Wednesday night at 5:30. 10th seeded Manny Tigers looking for a third straight state tournament appearance. Again, stick with us. We will keep you up to date on everything happening in the softball playoffs through this next round in New Orleans and Baton Rouge. And then Josh, Preston, and I will be out in Sulphur for that state tournament next weekend. Again, for NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune, Jerit Roser.